For the last couple of weeks now, we have been talking about how the Polkadot ecosystem is ready to make some very big moves. In this video, we're going to dive down into not only the technical analysis on Polkadot to see what's going on with the price action of DOT, but also going to cover some of the interesting things that are going on in the background. Guys, as we get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit that like button. We really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And to start things off, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to jump on over to this interesting piece of news, which is that Polkadot is finally ready for the parachain launch, and the DOT price does obviously skyrocket with that. Now, as we come on down, we're just going to talk briefly over what is going on here. So basically, it's the talk of the town, right? That currently Polkadot community is finally basically ready to launch the much awaited parachains. This was announced on Wednesday, the 13th of October. And the Polkadot parachains were announced, or first kind of proposed, I guess, in the Polkadot white paper back in well, about 5 years ago now. And so parachains are nothing but diverse and specialized blockchains connecting to the Polkadot relay chain. Thus, they cater for the multi-chain aspect of the Polkadot network architecture. They constitute a final piece of the puzzle in Polkadot's core technology. So the announcement from the Polkadot co-founder came while speaking at the Sub-Zero conference, explaining their preparations for the parachain launch. Basically, the founder said that parachains, auctions, and crowd loans code is now ready for an initial production release on Polkadot. The last technical steps necessary to complete before launching parachains on Polkadot were the completion of Polkadot's full code audit, which is now done, and the finalization of parachain disputes, which can now move forward. So I'm not going to read the entire article in detail, but obviously this is going to be huge news, and this is something that we've been talking about for a few weeks now, that ultimately we've seen a huge number of projects that are looking to build on Polkadot reach out to us and basically want us to do promotional content. Now, obviously, on this channel, we reject 99.9% of all promotional content because we have to be confident in what we promote, okay? And ultimately, as a part of that, we'd like to do a lot of research. We cannot research everything, so we basically just have to go in and, as we can, find things that we are pretty comfortable with, and we'll obviously do promotional content on that. And in the case of Polkadot, we haven't actually done any promotional content, but I mean, because we haven't done enough research on those promotional offers. My point here, though, is that we are not the only influencers in the space. We're actually relatively small fish in the ocean, and as a result of that, you can imagine that there's going to be a lot more other YouTubers or influencers across various different social medias that have experienced very much the same kind of flurry of promotional offers in their inboxes, and as a result of that, you're going to start seeing a significant amount more promotional content across YouTube for projects that are launching on Polkadot. Now, whether or not those influencers are going to tell you that they're being paid is entirely up to them. And again, if they are not, then they are obviously in breach of their rules on the platforms, specifically on YouTube, where you do have to communicate that it's paid content. Now, ultimately, you're not going to know, so it's important that you do that research, right? Some influencers will tell you that it's paid, some influencers won't tell you that it's paid. So it's important that you do your own research. There is no substitute for that. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. Chris is not a financial advisor, so it's important that you do that research. There isn't any substitute for it. And in doing so, you're going to be able to find those diamonds in the rough, those hidden gems, and avoid those scam projects and those rug pulls. So just make sure you kind of get that one across the line. Make sure you do that, because there's a serious amount of promotional content coming for Polkadot, I do believe. So make sure that you're fully aware of what that is and what is going on there. With all that being said and done, though, obviously we have seen a very significant good push with the Polkadot price. So we've seen a good push to the upside recently, and pretty much in line after September's pullback, a good opportunity down here, which we've been talking about, buying up some of the fear ahead of moving up to some interesting zones. Now, right now we are pushing up against that 786. This is the $41 zone. So anyone who's watching the last video that we did on Polkadot a few days ago, we were talking about how we are looking to push up to that $41 range, where we do anticipate some resistance to be found. And again, this resistance really comes back to where we were before Bitcoin actually pulled back from 65k to 28k, right? And this is basically way back in May. And we can see that this $41 range was a huge area of resistance. So it's no coincidence that we're also finding the resistance right now on this 786. And again, the all-time high isn't too far away from our current position now, coming in at $49.82. Now, obviously, we take a look at our stochastic RSI on this daily. We are overbought, but again, this isn't a problem because during this initial August wave that we had, we were pushing up significantly to the upside, and we stayed in the overbought area for quite some time. So this is something that I can anticipate us doing going longer term as well. So again, not concerned with the stochastic right now. That's looking pretty good. More concerned with the resistance levels that we're finding up here. So it's important that we obviously acknowledge that we are looking to go up to new all-time highs. The first target that we have really comes in at $74.19. In order to get there, though, we obviously do have to breach this resistance. In order to breach this resistance, we're going to need some help from the community, understanding the sentiment in the space and all that kind of good stuff. And in order to help us understand what is going on with the underlying value and the underlying data of Polkadot, we're going to use the advice.io dashboard. So those who are unfamiliar, links in the description down below, do check it out. It's completely free and you're going to get a lot more insight into your cryptocurrencies. So here we obviously have Polkadot, right? An A3 cryptocurrency rating overall. Now, this A3 rating is basically top tier. So basically it runs from A1, A2, A3, which is where Polkadot is, down to B1, 2, and 3. And then obviously the lower tier, which is C1, 2, and 3, and then D being the worst rating that you can get. U for ungradable if there isn't enough data. Now, in the case of Polkadot, an A3 cryptocurrency rating is top tier, so it's in the top 3 rating of cryptocurrency projects right now. But again, we go a little bit further and a little bit deeper than this. We can obviously see that the volume is 2.6 billion, sorry. And we can see that 7-day change is 21.1% up, right? As we come down, we get a little bit more detail of the underlying value, the underlying data that's not usually readily available in the chart. So for those who do not know, advice.io use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help us understand the underlying value of cryptocurrencies, right? And in the case of Polkadot here, we have an 𝗕𝗓 ratio. This is an A2 rating, okay? And basically your 𝗕𝗓 ratio is liquidity. And an A2 rating is the second best rating that you can get on the platform. So this is indicating that there are no problems with liquidity. Buying and selling shouldn't be a problem for Polkadot right now, and everything's looking pretty good from that perspective. As we come on down a little bit lower, we have a Sharpe ratio. This Sharpe ratio is also an A2 rating, the second best rating, and the Sharpe ratio is your risk-reward ratio. So this artificial intelligence and machine learning right now is indicating to us that the rewards outweigh the risks when it comes to exposure to Polkadot. And as a result of this Sharpe ratio, we might want to have some exposure to Polkadot, right? And as we have a look further up here, we have a fear and greed index, right? So you're probably very familiar with the fear and greed index that you see over various different social medias. This is usually just the Bitcoin general kind of fear and greed index. What we have here with advice is the artificial intelligence and machine learning deriving a fear and greed index that is specific to Polkadot. Okay, and this is incredibly useful. And this is useful because it helps us understand what the sentiment is like for Polkadot right now. And we have a C1 rating. Okay, so a C1 rating for Polkadot is it's in the lower tier, right? But it's borderline coming back into the neutral position. So this is actually a pretty interesting tell. It means that there was extreme fear only a few days ago for Polkadot, and that fear seems to have been curbed, but it's not completely dissipated just yet. And this is also a bit of a concern. If we're up against resistance, we should be aware that more people are potentially willing to sell right now than to buy, specifically as you come up against these resistance levels on the charts. But that being said, the Sharpe ratio and the fear and greed index are opposites of each other. Okay, and this is really interesting because basically you've got fear in the market for Polkadot, but also a Sharpe ratio that says the rewards outweigh the risks and that you might want some exposure to Polkadot. So as a result, you might be able to buy up that fear, right? That's how I read the data. Now, obviously, it's important that you do your own research. Sign up to advice.io, use TradingView. You can use TradingView directly on advice.io as well, so you can have all your charts and all this underlying data all in one spot. And this could be a part of your research, okay? Because I'm not a financial advisor. It's important that you do your own research. This might be a part of that research to help you understand whether or not you're going to buy fear or not buy fear. And in the case here, a Sharpe ratio that's actually well above the 50-day average, indicating the second best rating on the platform, and the fear and greed index is actually quite badly affected from from a sentiment perspective right now, there's fear potentially up for sale or a discount on your DOT ahead of where we're going. So looking pretty interesting from those perspectives. As we come on down, we have moving averages as well. And those moving averages are actually coming in at an A2 rating, the second best on the platform. And again, no problem being found here with the moving averages of Polkadot. And again, that ROI, that profitability up there as an A1 rating, the best it can be, looking very good. Peak end value demand in the neutral position. Overall, everything's looking very, very good. And the only issue that remains is that unreasonable amount of fear for Polkadot, probably being driven from China and everything that's going on there. But overall, I think this is actually a pretty interesting way to kind of understand that there is a little bit of fear that we could be buying up ahead of where we're going next. So when we come back to the charts, and we obviously have talking about this big kind of move to the upside, targeting $74.19. Before moving on to 113, 153, and then topping out at $177 on the full 4.236 extension for Polkadot. Everything's looking pretty good, and some fear that might be up for sale right now. Now, as we come down to the next level, the hourly view, this is where we get to see that consolidation. Okay, so when we were briefly talking about this before, we had our buy zone kind of down here that we didn't actually enter all that much. We had this one opportunity just here. I thought we were actually going to go down to about $33 when we were up at around this point here, but instead we moved to the north side very, very rapidly, right? Staying up in the overbought area. I was anticipating a $33 move before moving up to the $38 range and then finally tackling out 41. Now, ultimately, we are in this area of overbought as we've come up against this resistance. Right now, there's a bit of a gap that we obviously have to be aware of as well, okay? And basically what we're looking for is this orange line is your 702, okay? But if I actually go ahead and grab hold of my rectangular box here, what we are looking to do is actually kind of fill this bit of void right here. So, I actually pull this down to about here and actually bring this in. Yeah, we're in this kind of this area here. So basically what we've got is this move to the upside here over the course of a 3-hour period basically didn't stop. It just went all the way through above the 786 and then consolidated down a little bit, right? And this has actually left this gap in the middle that hasn't been filled before, other than obviously way back over this side, right? So what we need to do is basically come back in, potentially back test on the $38 range, which would be our 702, okay? So basically from the 786 to the 702, gear up for a big move then to the upside thereafter. That being said, though, this whole area here could be forming an area of support. And again, if we actually take a look back at where things were previously, there are some areas of support which were basically where our first couple of hours of candles were actually touching on previously. Okay, so $38 definitely does seem to be an interesting zone that we want to be kind of watching out for. Maybe there's an accumulation to be had here as we lower our stochastic from overbought to oversold. And a brief pullback could then see us move to the north side very, very rapidly. And again, this is very much in line with the views of moving up to new all-time highs, specifically on our daily chart just here. So obviously going past $49 is going to be all-time high territory. First target of $74 isn't going to happen overnight, but I do anticipate a push past all-time high, back test on previous all-time high at $49, and then push up towards our $74 target. Here we'll probably find some kind of resistance before pushing up and turning into support and moving on up the chart steadily over the next few weeks and months. Ultimately, the goal here and the objective is to move to $177 by the end of the bull run. Do anticipate that's going to be Q1 of 2022, depending on what goes on with the market. But again, as things really heat up with Polkadot in the same way that we started to see with Solana, we could potentially move way past all of these targets rapidly, before you know it, actually looking to set new all-time highs and new fib extensions above the $177 range. Ultimately, though, that's currently where we're looking based on the history and the performance that we've seen. 4.236 coming in at 177 is where I anticipate the bull run ending, but anything is possible in crypto. So let's watch out and see how things play out. Right now, do expect a little bit of volatility on the smaller time frames. Let's just get corrected down to the 702, push up above the 786, get the close on the weekend above the 786, new all-time high next week, and then talk about moving to the 1.618 estimate of $74. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found this video useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.